Hello to all my DeWaldos out there. My name is Nick DeWald, and I will be hosting with my co-host here.
Hi, I'm Fox Kohler.
And this will be a kind of demo for a project I want to start on. So back in 1971, in February, I can only guarantee February, some students of Helena High put out a piece called The Paper Tiger. And it's this really hippie newspaper that was running in competition with The Nugget for a while. We have one issue of it in the Helena High library, and I think there were more issues that just were not saved.
Looking at the piece, because I don't know much of the background on it that Nick does, looking at the piece, I think it's really interesting. It's much more almost stylized than I think the Nugget in the way that it's not really stylized. The top of it is really interesting because Paper Tiger is written out in tiny little. So like the first P in paper is written composed of a bunch of other P's.
Yeah, so that's definitely just a formatting thing that they would do, since Helena High obviously didn't have the resources to print larger letters for the title Paper Tiger, so
and
they
that's
built it out of.
Do other
I've seen
papers do this?
I haven't seen any recently. I haven't researched that. I'm sure I can find something. But I've seen it a couple times throughout Helena High while diving through the archives.
So that might just be like a Helena High thing?
I don't think it's exclusive.
Well, no, but like something we did.
So that's the title, and right underneath the title is a quote that Fox and I both really like, being, "All reactionaries are paper tigers." Quote from Mao Tse-tung.
Maybe.
I'm saying that wrong. 100% guarantee I'm saying that wrong.
I looked up the quote. I think it's really interesting because this is a short version of the longer quote.
Mm-hmm.
All reactionaries are paper tigers. In appearance, the reactionaries are terrifying, but in reality, they are not so powerful. From a long-term point of view, it is not the reactionaries, but the people who are powerful. And then there's something called a paper tiger fallacy, which is something or someone that claims or appears to be powerful, but is actually unable to withstand challenge. I think that's interesting because I don't quite know what a reactionary is in that sense. It separates reactionaries from the people, and I feel like...
Well, what I think off of, and even without the more context, what I took from it was, and especially with the separating people from the reactionaries, I would put the people in power as the reactionaries, and the people that are seen as, like reviewers are the reactionaries, politicians are reactionaries. You know, we put them in these places of powers, but they are paper tigers without us.
I like that, and I think it makes sense.
Especially with what this is.
It's very... We've been using the word hippie to describe it every single time.
Yeah.
But I think it is...
And we'll get into this in episode 2 because of some of the points they bring up in their second article, but it was released in the middle of the Vietnam War. People were getting drafted. The 26th Amendment just went through. Mm-hmm. They could vote. And this was completely student-produced. I'm pretty sure, again,
there's nothing...
50-some-odd years ago.
Yeah, and there's no, slip of paper that you get with every...
Right. There are no teachers listed on the staff, so we're pretty sure this was an independent piece made by students entirely.
Shall we talk about the first bit of it?
Yeah, okay. So here is the first article they wrote, which kind of throwaway in historical senses, but it felt good for the purposes of introducing you all to this paper. So the title of this article is, "Well, Kiddies, it's tournament time. Here we are again with tournaments breathing down our necks. These festivals of flex are really nice holidays for all those practical purposes. School is out and most of the kids have split, but some have gone to tourneys and fewer yet have gone to watch the games. Of course, they are a minority. Most of us are there to play games, actually. They are quite the games, and every now and then the refs in their ref cars must come and send to the showers. The PT staff wishes the best of luck to all of you game players, especially the basketball team. We must not forget, come home, we must not forget them. Come home with all you can get. Of course we mean trophies and the like. All in all, it will be a grand time with the kids exuding all of our HHS school spirit and coming home next Saturday or Sunday. Maybe not so bright-eyed, but nonetheless bushy-tailed." So, of course, it's obviously just like hey, we have our student body out at tournaments, we should be supporting them. So, not too much there, but I do really like how they point out, like, yeah, we send these people to games, but, like, people don't really watch.
Yeah. And I think that's also what I noticed, because it's similar to sort of how HHS functions now. If you know about the games, you know about the games. If you know about the plays, you know about the plays. Fewer than those who know actually attend them.
Right.
There's not really community widespread school spirit for.
Oh yeah. No, it's definitely a problem, and it is brought up in one of these later ones. I don't remember which one it was. I've read through most of this paper now, and I really, and yeah, I also think it's interesting the position the writer is taking with this. Ironically enough, there isn't a writer listed for this. But, like, the whole, like, the breathing down our necks, these festivals of flex, you know, it really feels like the author is interested and invested in the tournaments.
Mm-hmm. And I think the author is writing from the perspective of a player. The only time they mention, what is the specific pronoun used? The specific pronoun used, it's the only time us is mentioned. This is an athlete. This is one of they're going to play, and they want people there to support whatever sport they may have.
And I'm also wondering, especially the basketball team, we must not forget them. You know, it really makes me think, like, because basketball is one of our more important sports that people do attend.
Yeah.
You know, we got football, basketball, and then nothing much for the spring, track, but that's harder to go attend a game. So it makes me wonder, like, what was going on with Helena High, the basketball team? Like, what team was bigger, or are they
what was more popular?
Yeah.
And it is hard for me to imagine any era of American high schooldom where sports are not the majority field, but it could have been possible just within school culture for something other than to be more popular.
Right.
I mean, like, I don't think we could. I think it would be a lot harder for us today to gather an entire other school newspaper team. I think we have enough issues with staffing the Nugget, either we had a lot more students, or it was just generally a more popular thing to do.
And, just for the sake. So here's another article from the same paper, The Lack of Participation, where they mention it's a 200 or a 2,000 person school.
Yeah.
So they have nearly double our student population currently.
How many kids do we have in HHS?
We have around 1,000, right?
1,036, I think it was.
Yeah.
1,036.
So they have double our people, and I've looked through this yearbook in gathering information about these people because it took a lot of effort to find out when this was produced.
Yeah.
But no, it was a really involved time at Helena High. If you look back, sure, there were 2,000 people, but there were a solid 300 that seemed to be active in clubs.
That's really interesting to me. And it's always so... I think about the participation at Helena High a lot, and more so the lack of participation at Helena High. I think we have many students who are active participants in things and who do find pride in it, and clubs and things have been part of their quintessential Helena High experience. There's also a lot of talk, and I will save my thoughts for probably next article, because I have thoughts on that one that are this similar vein.
These are really interconnected. I guess a couple more bits of history from when this was produced, because it is important. A couple times throughout here, it'll come up about disrespecting the flag, which is in there, and part of why this seems so hippie, in the words we've been using, is because middle of Vietnam, their classmate burned a flag for whatever reason, I don't know if it's mentioned in here, and was expelled.
Oh.
Yeah.
They got expelled for it.
And I think there might have been harsher punishment, but don't quote me on that yet.
What's harsher punishment? Arrested? What's harsher punishment
than government punishment? Because it was middle of Vietnam. Everyone was up at arms.
Fighting words. Government calls those fighting words.
Fighting words. They were mad at their government.
Yeah.
So it was definitely a sign of disrespect that this student burned the flag.
I can see that. I guess it just is a bit of a shock to me until you really understand what time it was.
Yeah.
It's weird. We have every day we have the Pledge of Allegiance, and I am in AP Lit during the Pledge of Allegiance.
We can't even hear it.
First of all, we can't even hear it. Second of all, there's one girl who stands for the Pledge of Allegiance. There is one girl who stands for the Pledge of Allegiance when it's playing in my classroom. No. She just but and there are a couple other people who sometimes will put their hand over their heart or something, but she is the only one guaranteed that will every day stand up and put her hand over her heart and look at the flag in the classroom, etc. And I've noticed it. It just is interesting how that culture has changed.
Yeah.
And there's whether or not that's disrespectful to our country is a huge discussion.
Yeah, and that is discussed a lot later on. There's a big article that's going to be a lot of fun to tackle. But, definitely with that respect of the flag thing, I think it's really interesting to think about your second period advanced placement lit class
Right.
only has one person, whereas my law and justice class second period, 90% of the people stand and address
Really?
the flag.
I know I'm trying to think of past years of high school, which classes that I've had the pledge in, and how many people have stood in those classes, because it's definitely varied, and we live in Montana.
Right.
American pride is still very much kicking and screaming. I think I have pride for America. I don't know if I have pride for America in the same way kids I am being educated with in this very building have pride for America. It's
different.
It's different, and it's definitely different from the way people think. People thought when this paper was written.
Exactly. Especially because the people who wrote this paper are because there were two very different sides during the war at Vietnam, because there was the majority side of people who were aggravated at our nation because they were drafting these young men to go to this war, and that was the majority. Like, everyone was pissed off because they didn't see the need to be at Vietnam, and this paper was written by those people. And then there was also the minority that thought it was justified.
They saw a need for us to be there. They saw a need for that war. Yeah.
Well, not to get ahead of ourselves, because there will be a lot of conversation about a lot of these things later down, because it was a very big thing at the time. Though there was something I wanted to do, since along with this paper there was also a couple dozen poems.
Yeah.
So I figured we don't need to necessarily discuss them, but I figured right at the end I'd put one of these students' poems
Each time.
One
Nice.
each time. So this one doesn't have a title, but... Hello, I'm sorry for interrupting my own show, but editor Nick here, looking back, I 100% misread that poem. So to not take away from the experience, here it is correctly. Behind brick walls and buried windows, the happy prisoners sit. They are calm and complacent because they know Big Brother watches them. His voice echoes through an intercom and the telescreens are on. Hate really creates passionate screams from a uniformed member of the state. It's a good thing Big Brother thinks for us. The time is not 1984. The place is not Oceana. The time is 1971. The place is Helena High School. And now back to me and Fox sitting in a room talking about it.
I like it. I really do. I think.
I like it, especially for the time.
And I think I laughed a bit while reading this because of the time is not 1984. The place is not Oceana. The time is 1971. The place is Helena High School. This was pre the date of 1984.
Right.
Like, the fact that this book, written by a man whose chosen dystopian date is now 40 years past us. And we have taken on, embodied a lot of the predictions in that book, but we are not there yet. It's really interesting to see. Like 1984, we were nowhere near George Orwell's vision.
Is Big Brother a George Orwell thing?
Mm-hmm.
Oh. I
1984 is written by George Orwell.
Well, no, I know that 1984 is George Orwell. I didn't know Big Brother was... Because when I think of Big Brother, I think of the reality TV show.
Fair. 1984 is Big Brother.
Gotcha.
The premise, and I haven't read it, but I know.
You know.
1984's premise is that the government is essentially Big Brother.
Gotcha.
And watching over its constant surveillance and sort of that idea mixed in with other things. Generally, extremely terrifying dystopia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no. Like, definitely interesting poem, and definitely gonna be interesting to continue on with this. So, feel free to keep tuned. We will try to put out one of these a week, but time restricts, as we all know, especially for us seniors.
As time allows, we will do our best.
But thank you for listening. I've been Nick DeWald.
And I've been Fox Kohler.
Thank you for listening. Have a great rest of your week.